Here are some examples of features you might use if you're an infrastructure provider who wants to make energy infrastructure and who's trying to decide where you want to target investments in different energy carriers. You may want to look at where there are government incentives for each type of energy carrier. All of the incentives would be useful to indicate demand, and the incentives for infrastructure would be more directly relevant to infrastructure investments. Here is an example of the electric vehicle incentives. You would also want to see where there is existing infrastructure. You could research these areas to find out about markets there. On the one hand, this could indicate a high demand for a fuel type in these areas, making it favorable to build infrastructure there. On the other hand, it may mean that there is more competition in these areas, and you could look into building in places that currently have less infrastructure. Here's an example of existing hydrogen infrastructure. You would want to build hydrogen charging infrastructure near electrolyzers in order to have easier access to the fuel. You can look at highway flows, truck imports and exports, or truck stops in order to see where there are more trucks passing through. Regions with high traffic flow and freight flow density may be more amenable to electrification, as there will be sufficient demand to support provision of dense charging infrastructure, whereas energy dense carriers like hydrogen and hydrocarbons, CNG, LNG, LPG, may be more suitable for low density regions thanks to the longer vehicle ranges and less need for frequent refueling.
You might also be interested in the grid's capacity to support electric truck charging. This can be roughly assessed at the state level by looking at the annual electricity demand associated with electrified trucking under a scenario where all trucking operations in the state get fully electrified. You can then compare this either with the grid's total annual electricity generated, or you can compare it with the potential excess generating capacity available. You would also want to connect with local grid utilities to ask about potential upgrades that would be needed to the electric distribution system to support truck charging. You can explore the map for features that would be relevant to each fuel type in order to get a bigger picture. This information can be a starting point for research in making your decisions.